Well, we managed to get past Real Madrid relatively comfortably in the round of 16 here at Benfica in our Champions League defence in yesterday's episode. Today, it should be easier because we take on a team allergic to European trophies in Arsenal. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 107 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Benfica. I hope you're doing well and come up day. Got the Champions League quarter final where we take on Arsenal over 2 legs. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to that, but it does come off the back of yesterday's episode, which obviously was the previous round in the Champions League knockouts, the round of 16 where we took on Real Madrid. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We'll catch up on the results since then in a little bit because off camera we've actually had a youth intake here at Benfica before these quarterfinals, and it was an absolute ripper of one too. If we make our way over to the youth candidates, you'll see this is a very good one considering the quality of our squad here at Benfica. 3 talents who are supposed to be elite. First up, Gabriel, who is a Brazilian with 5-star potential, 1.5-star current ability. Going to train him up as a deep line playmaker. To be fair, that's the case with both the midfielders who are elite talents. Unfortunately, he though got injured for 3 to 4 months in that youth intake game, so that's a little bit of a bummer for him, but we'll still sign him. Obviously, that value is extremely good for a 15-year-old. He could be a future baller, albeit not too sure if we'll see all of that during the remainder of the save. But Gabriel, highly promising midfielder, as is Diogo Carvalho, who's a pretty similar player, deep line playmaker, and with a similar value. So 2 very good midfielders for us here in this youth intake. It should mean that hopefully that area is quite future-proofed here in this Benfica squad. Might be a way for them to make some money and get out of the financial trouble that they are somewhat in, albeit not as bad as the likes of Porto here in Portugal. And also, they've got a quite promising striker, which is pretty typical considering that we just had to replace a couple in that most recent transfer window and spend a fair bit of money. But Belchior Aurelio is another Portuguese fellow, 1-star current ability, so not quite there in terms of that as much as those other ones in the elite talents. But again, he's got 5-star potential at 15 years old. Not too sure how he's got so much facial here, but does look pretty darn good. So a couple of super promising players we've got in our youth intake here this season at Benfica, and also a left back in Jorge Bar with 4.5-star potential. Not too sure how he can get bumped up there to an elite talent, but another really promising player we've got there through this season's youth intake. And as well as that, we've also picked up Silvino Varela, someone from Cape Verde again though, a midfielder, albeit with that height maybe, could end up training him as a centre-back instead, but quite a handy player there. No doubt we'll get an international call-up quite quickly for Cape Verde. And also, the other one we signed out of Portugal is Marian Shaun, another striker with 4-star potential. So that youth intake, actually a bit of a ripper for us here at Benfica. Unfortunately, it's come towards probably the tail end of the save, but we'll see how much game time we can give to these fellas while we're still here at Benfica. It probably depends too on how we get on in the Champions League this season. You guys probably need to let me know if we win it again, do you want this save to continue? Because 2 straight Champions Leagues, it would be ideal to win a Premier League as well, but do we really need to, especially if we can beat a team like Arsenal, who despite the fact that they're allergic to European trophies, are sitting quite comfortably on top of the Premier League by 12 points. So really, if we can get past these guys, kind of proving that we're better than the best team in England at the moment. So let's see here how we get on in the quarterfinals. But going back to Arsenal, they come into this one in some very good form. Did take a second leg for them to get past Ajax 2-0. So not the biggest result there, but around that, they've thumped Liverpool and Man City and also got past Brighton 2-0. So to be fair, these guys in some very good form with Roberto De Zerbi in charge. To be fair, I thought my bank balance here wasn't too good. Theirs is quite bad, but obviously Premier League money, that will get topped up quite a bit at the end of the season, especially if they knock us out here as well of the Champions League in the quarterfinals. We're actually check here and make sure that they are indeed still allergic to European trophies. Europa League back in 1970 and a Cup Winners' Cup in 94. So definitely they have not changed their Botley ways in Europe, have this Arsenal team. So hopefully that continues. Albeit unfortunately, Min Hong Sun is out with a twisted ankle. That happened off the back of yesterday's episode where he finally scored our first goal for us. Unfortunately, he's out for 2 to 4 weeks, a little bit weaker than we'd like to be at striker in today's episode. So it does mean Medina going to have to step up there up front in place of Hong Sun. Also, we've got Aventor up from our B team. He's a player that isn't registered but just falls under the age bracket where he doesn't need to be. Quite a handy player to be fair for the current ability and potential range that he does have. So let's hope he can step up for us if Medina is not doing the job, to be fair. It's a quite good ratio for us when we have used him here in the saves oven tour is the backup. We'll see how that goes. Unfortunately, our youngster, we can't play in the Champions League, the one that we did just get in that youth intake, but we've played a couple of games as well off the back of yesterday's episode, only two, a 6-0 win over Morelense and a 5-0 win over Portimonense. So a couple of really big wins there, and it does actually mean that we have guaranteed ourselves the league title for a second season in a row. So already the champions. It does also mean got our transfer budget 13.35 million with a wage budget spare of 405k. So that could get topped up if we need to, but really the wages we need to offer for players to improve our squad here these days at Benfica, we probably don't want to slide that around too much because those players that will improve us will be on quite a high wage. But as I said, probably see how this season goes. If we pick up back-to-back Champions Leagues, do we actually need to continue to save, or will we be managerial royalty? I won't actually quit doing saves on FM24. If we do stop this one, I'll do something else, might even stream it and do it as a video at the end of each week. But you guys let me know down in the comments what you want to do with the save off the back of this season, which to be fair, there won't be too much more to play for if we get knocked out here by Arsenal. So hopefully can pick up a good result here in the first league. Of course, the other side of the draw would take on the winner of Bayer Leverkusen versus Barcelona. So to be fair, the way those two teams are going, definitely not on top of the Bundesliga or the Liga. We saw that with Real Madrid yesterday. They're running away there with the Liga. I'm pretty sure that someone that's not Bayer are on top of the Bundesliga. I'm pretty sure Bayern are back on top of that. So really, if we can get past this Arsenal team, we should be beating one of those two teams in the semi in tomorrow's episode. But we've made one other change here to our team, and it's actually based on tributes. Monsalvo, a little bit better than Habib Diarra, I recently noticed. So he's in there now over him in a deep line playmaker role alongside Castillejo in midfield. But apart from that, as well as obviously up front, just going to have to give here Aventura a number. His first time in the first team for a little while here in the safety, as I said before, when we've called on him, he's been quite good. But obviously, Medina up front as well as that change in midfield. So hopefully can get the job done here over Arsenal and their banana uniform they're going to wear here away in Benfica. Hopefully can pick up a good result like we did against Real Madrid. A quite good win there in that second leg, although it did take us a little while there to kick away. It took until about the last half hour, I think it was, of that game. Or in fact, it might have been around half time. We really put those guys to bed. So hopefully can pick up a nice comfy result here in front of our home fans, because of course going to the Emirates in a knockout game, that could be quite tricky. But Arsenal are also going here with a 4-2-3-1. To be fair, that's a pretty strong team. The likes there of Dalman and Rice in midfield, that's quite a strong combo. And also still likes too of Bukayo Saka and Judge up front is a very good new gen, I think it is. So that Arsenal team is pretty strong. No doubt the reason they're so far clear in the Premier League. We probably should actually report that to SI. There's a bug in the game. Arsenal are about to win an actual trophy that's of somewhat importance. But let's see here if we can stop them from picking up one in Europe, because then definitely that would be a bug. They don't win in Europe, as we all know. But Arsenal here are on the attack earlier. Thankfully, just able there to clear that one away, albeit not too well. Judge here does get back on the attack for Arsenal for some reason. We're not marking him too well, but eventually did look like we got a block there on that shot. But apparently it's gone straight out for a goal kick. So not too sure there about the refereeing, because it looked pretty clear cut there. That should have been a corner, but it did end up being a goal kick. We were on the attack there briefly from a throw, but Arsenal win that ball back, and now Saka starts to get something going for them here down the right-hand side, squares that, but thankfully just able to clear our lines there through Enrique's. Arsenal are all over us early. Hopefully a chance for us here, though, on the counter-attack. Hudland, the Calafatoglu, who will pick out Nadi down this left-hand side. Can we hit them here on the counter? Enrique at the far post, indeed we can. He rises like the Brazilian salmon against his former club, of course, with Arsenal. This is the team that took De Rosa off us, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see him in their matchday squad. So it's a little bit weird if they've spent just under 40 million on someone they're not going to play in the Champions League. We pinched Enrique off them at the start of the season to replace, of course, Eden Husic, and he pops up there with a big goal against his former club. So thankfully, we've got a 1-0 lead, and now Nianzou goes very close there from a set piece and nearly grab a cushion goal lead here at home. Unfortunately, can't quite loop that one back into the mixer over the goalkeeper, and it does stay at 1-0, but all of a sudden they get a little bit more here on the front foot in this game off the back of Arsenal, looking quite dangerous in those first couple of highlights. Let's see here how the remainder of this first half does go around here for Arsenal. And Dowman with a great chance, but thankfully he puts that one straight into the path of Diogo Miguel, who he of course signed for Vitória Guimarães at the start of the season, and he's done a pretty darn good job for us there in between the sticks. But Arsenal do get this ball back. Judge here does get in behind, will put it away, but you'd like to think there he was about 2 million miles offside, and that one shouldn't count because that looked way too good to be true. And indeed, that is the case. So thankfully, still hold on here to our 1-0 lead. Declan Rice here plays the ball over the top, and really didn't need to go to VAR for that. That was pretty darn clear cut. So thankfully, hold on here to our 1-0 lead just coming up to the half-hour mark. Against the current runaway Premier League leaders, let's hope here we can prove that the Portuguese league might be a little bit better than the Premier League, because that certainly would be unexpected. It might be a chance for us here to make it 2-0 before half-time, albeit Arsenal are on the ball, but we did put pressure on Real Madrid in similar spots like this yesterday, so hopefully might do something similar in this highlight, albeit for now Arsenal are looking a lot more comfortable on the ball than Real Madrid did in that game, and actually finding some good space here through our defence. Declan Rice there with a lovely chance, but thankfully Miguel comes up with a big save. So Arsenal are creating some quite good chances, but thankfully just not taking them now. A little bit messy there inside the box. We're just able to clear that one away briefly, albeit now they've got the ball back here on the edge of the box. But thankfully a massive back pass there does mean that highlight comes to an end. So when Arsenal are on the attack, to be fair, they're looking pretty threatening. Thankfully, we had that counter-attacking chance quite early, and we took it from Matheus Henrique, their former player, and we've got a 1-0 lead, albeit going to take off the guy here who assisted that goal, and Emmanuel Nardi did pick up a yellow card there quite late in that first half, so Fabio Ronaldo can come on for him. But apart from that, relatively happy with how this is going still. Our strikers not scoring too much. Unfortunately, Son had just found some form before that injury that he picked up. Medina going okay, but this is the first time really he's had to take on some decent opposition in a stretch of games in a row. So we'll see here how Medina does get on in the remainder of this game. To be fair, Matheus Henrique is someone who we probably could have considered shifting to striker instead of spending big money on a striker. We could have actually improved at right wing, now I think of it, but let's see here how we get on in the remainder of the second half. And also when players do drop down to red hearts and some average ratings, and it's starting to happen now. Castillejo on a 6.5, as is Medina. So I think he will try Matsoso for Medina and shift Henrique up front and just see if that might work as well. As Florentino Luis, of course, scored some big goals in yesterday's episode off the back of stuffing up that Invincible League season. He can come on for Castillejo on a 6.5. So let's see here if those couple of subs might help us out. Hopefully Henrique up front might just mean that we can put these guys away. A little bit dicey there at the back, but thankfully he should do quite well here to make our way out from deep inside of our own half. Nyanzu up to Monsalvo. Now we're going to find some space here down our left-hand side. Nice pass there from Ronaldo to Matheus Henrique, who puts that one away now. Not too sure if the assistant referee put their flag up this time. Let's see if this goal will count. No, it will not. That one's also offside. It seems like all the goals there down that one end are going to get ruled out for offside. So unfortunately, it's still 1-0 indeed. Not as clear cut as the judge one from the first half, but indeed it is offside. So we're still only 1-0 in front. Now Calafatoglu does drop down to a red heart. So Rodriguez can come on for him, the former Boca Juniors man. Let's see if he can make an impact there at left wing. Got one more sub and stoppage that we can use. We'll probably play it depending on who drops down to a red heart. But a chance here for Arsenal to make their way out from the back. They're still well and truly in this tie. Would be quite ideal if we could score a goal to make sure we have a cushion goal lead heading to the Emirates for that second leg. A shocking pass there from the goalkeeper, and Luis will break it up, and the goalkeeper positions himself really poorly. Luis can curve that one inside that right hand upright and make it 2-0. So there's that goal that we were looking for, and it comes from a shocking bit of work there from Escalainen. Not too sure what he's doing there, looking for Declan Rice, and from there, for some reason, Luis ain't getting marked on recent form. That's not too good an idea, and to be fair, he should probably save that too from that far out. So the Arsenal goalkeeper there is an absolute shocker, and we make it 2-0 off the back of that. Jeremiah Hudland going a little bit feely today. We'll give him rest while we can for Francisco Trincao with our final sub. That could be a really big goal, a cushion lead with only 15 minutes left here in this first leg. We'll see if we can hang on and sing, as this will be a pretty big result. We'll start the time waste here with only 10 minutes left. We'll just be a little bit more disciplined and also time waste sometimes and get the goalkeeper there to slow the pace down. We can go to fullbacks once we make our way forward to only having 5 minutes left, albeit another highlight here. This time the goalkeeper does find a teammate there. I think it was an Acer, and now Rice starts to make his way forward, but that ball a bit too deep, and Ronaldo can tidy things up there before Martin Odegaard does get on the ball, and Luiz, who's popped up there with a big goal, now starts to get us going here in the opposition half. Matt Soso there with a bit of a loose touch, but thankfully we get the ball forward there to Henri, but that shot, it comes off the post, so we nearly make it 3-0. Arsenal actually might be able to do something here on the counter-attack, though. Martinelli plays it forward to Saka, but a nice slide tackle there from Fortea. A little bit messy, that highlight, but it is still 2-0 off the back of that happening. We'll start to time waste even more than we did before. Don't actually think this time we'll chuck our wing-backs onto full-backs, because the 2-0 lead, we're somewhat looking threatening here in this game, so we might just see if we need to do that if Arsenal do grab a goal back. But still a lot of football to be playing this tie. We might be okay here without fullbacks, and that's some shocking work again there from the Arsenal goalkeeper. Rodriguez absolutely stalks that one and puts it away. Their goalkeeper having a shocker here in Escalon, and he's now given the ball away, and it's led to 2 straight goals in the last 15 minutes of this game. This time looking for Palacios. Rodriguez reads it like a book and curves it there around the goalkeeper. The Arsenal defenders must be thinking, what's our bloke doing? He's turned into Lloris Karius to get concussed. We've made it 3-0 with a couple of giveaways inside the last 15 minutes of this game. So one that was looking like it would probably be 1-0 going into the second leg is now 3-0, and a chance for us here too from a corner late. Nyanzu with a bicycle kick. Unfortunately, this time the goalkeeper for them actually does his job and keeps it at 3-0, because that would have been a heck of a goal to finish things for us there. But that is a big win in the first leg of this Champions League quarterfinal. It really should put this tie to bed. We've got a 3-goal lead, so really would take a bottle job for us at the Emirates against Arsenal, which doesn't seem too likely because they're Arsenal and they usually do the bottling. But that's a nice lead we've got going in to that second leg. Somehow there's a player out there with a worse rating than the Arsenal goalkeeper. Not too sure how that's happened, because dead set, he's helped us pick up those last 2 goals. Up until then, it was a relatively even game. Just that early goal we got there through Mateus Henri, but a couple of giveaways. Florentino Luiz as well as the Marcelo Rodriguez help us pick up a 3-0 win. So really, that should take some chasing from Arsenal, even in front of their home fans. Bayer Leverkusen also take a lead into the away legs. At the moment, looks like Benfica versus Bayer and the semis will come back off the back of a circular derby in the league, albeit now with the situation in that competition, don't need to use too strong a team for that game, and hopefully hold on to our 3-goal advantage. And we've gone for 6 days off the back of that nice first league win over Arsenal. Unfortunately, couldn't back up in league here with a quite heavy rotation and youth team we put out for this game. A couple of players that you did see in our youth intake before who made their debuts in this game, and unfortunately couldn't quite get the job done. A double there just before we scored our first goal at the half-hour mark, and then they grab one with 20 minutes to go, and we suffer a pretty poor 3-1 defeat. So that's a bit embarrassing, getting beaten there by Sporting, albeit they did make the knockouts of the Champions League this season. They got thumped by Inter in the second leg of their first knockout playoff round clash, but of course, doesn't matter too much. We've already picked up that leg of Portugal. No more injury concerns off the back of that first leg. Still Hong Son out for a little while, so no changes in that front going into the second league, albeit a couple in terms of our selection, because a couple of players down here do sit on heavy workloads. Castillejo on a heavy one, as is Emmanuel Nardi, and also our other midfielder in Florentino Luiz sits on a heavy workload as well, as does Ronaldo, who's the usual backup at left back. So a couple of changes that aren't super ideal. It does mean that Escudero comes in there at left back and Monsalvo into central midfield, which of course was the position he was the backup for last season, until we realised actually quite good as a deep line playmaker. So a couple of changes there to our usual first team for this game, just making sure that hopefully with a 3-0 lead we should be okay. And of course still Medina up top, even though his form not too good, at 6.52 in his last couple of games and only 2 goals these days. Let's check how many appearances that's come from. That's in 7 for the club and 3 off the bench. Really not too good. 2 goals and 10 games, even if some of those were only bench appearances. But hopefully here can hold on to this 3-0 lead, which thankfully we picked up in that first leg, largely thanks to the Arsenal goalkeeper having an absolute shocker. But let's see here if we can hold our nerve against Arsenal, which does sound a little bit silly because Arsenal are usually the ones that don't hold their nerve. But obviously they've got not much to lose here off the back of that 3-0 loss away from home at the Emirates. This could be a little bit tricky, but hopefully can get the job done here, especially without Hong Sun, just as he was finding some form. That would be quite big. So very happy the Arsenal goalkeeper gave us a couple of freebies there in that previous league, because before then we weren't looking too hot in terms of goal scoring with Medina up front. We're still sticking with Henrique at right wing, but can change that if it's still an issue before we head into the semi-finals if Hong Sun hasn't quite come back. But let's see here how we get on in this away leg. Arsenal are still sticking with that 4-2-3 to be fair. Looked a pretty similar team to what they put out for that first leg, but a couple of changes for us. Let's hope that doesn't prove too damaging, just as long as we won't lose this one by 3 or 4 goals. So hopefully can make sure Arsenal don't score too many. Even a loss here would not be too bad. We'd make our way through the Champions League semis, and from there really it's a little bit of an even go. Usually in the final 4 of the Champions League, it would be absolutely amazing if we can pick up back-to-back Champions Leagues here with this Benfica team. But that's an early chance there from a free kick, but Miguel again comes up with a big save. Potentially the difference so far in this tie has been the goalkeepers. Declan Rice there did win that ball from the corner, but thankfully it eventually loops its way quite safely over the crossbar, and we've still got our 3-0 lead from the first league, albeit a couple of our defenders have picked up yellow cards. And now I'm on salvo, so all of a sudden not looking quite so good with those changes that we made. A few of them do sit on yellow cards, and again get beaten there in the ear from a set piece, but thankfully just able to clear our lines there. That went off the line there from the initial corners. Arsenal are all over us early, just like was the case in that first leg, but thankfully still can't find a way to score a goal. As we make our way up towards the half-hour mark here of the second leg, they are starting to run out of time, of course, with this 3-goal advantage that we do have. Just an hour now left here in this time. To highlight start, Xavi Simons plays it across there to one of their star players, and Judge now Saka will cut inside. Xavi starts to make his way forward. Some interesting passing. Judge there will put that one wide and also straight offside. So thankfully he, just like Hong Sun when he first moved to Benfica, can't quite keep up with the UEFA offside rules, and it's still 0-0 here in the second leg. But really stats-wise, Arsenal are absolutely bearing us, but hopefully can make our way here into half-time, albeit now might be a chance for us here to absolutely FM them and take a 1-goal lead and make it 4-0, which surely would put this tie to bed. Albeit Escudero there very loose on the ball down, and does get Arsenal going forward here on the counter-attack. Bukayo Saka does start to make his way forward. Nice pass out there to a Levy. Let's see what he can do. A pullback there, Martinelli to Max Dowman, but thankfully he puts that one wide. Arsenal just can't finish their dinner. They must not like food, because they're missing all sorts of chances here in this tie. So thankfully we've still got a 3-0 lead, but lots of players who do sit on yellow cards. Just seeing here what we could do with the players on our bench. Unfortunately, there's not too much left back cover that's actually not on a heavy workload. So I think we're on the backup here, and Renato, also Miguel can come on for Nyanzu, nearly 2 meters tall. He should be quite good from set pieces. And Luis, our backup centre mid, can come on for Monsalvo on that yellow card. We'll just make sure that he doesn't ease off tackles going into the second half, but not really playing too well in this league. But of course, seeing as we've got the 3-0 lead in terms of the aggregate, we've still got to kind of praise our players when we do get through the rest of this game. But Arsenal are on the attack here. First highlight of the second half. Dowman makes his way there inside the box, and Miguel finally gets beaten. That time though from an angle that he probably shouldn't be. So unfortunately we do concede early in the second half. To be fair, that goal has been coming now for a little while, but Arsenal can finally get a shot on target. Dowman then just jogs his way past. That would be Renan on the left hand side of our defence. So a bit poor there off the back of half time, and they make it 3-1. So all of a sudden not quite so fun here. They've got 40 minutes to work their way back into this game, but now Henrique picks up a yellow card and sits on a 6.4. So Matt Soso can come on for him for now. We'll leave Medina out there, even though he's also sitting pretty fairly on a 6.4, as is Colour Photography. So quite a few players out there who aren't doing well in this second league, but thankfully Arsenal so far only got 1 goal, but now Hudland picks up an orange injury, and it's our last sub, so Trincao can come on for him. Let's hope that it's not too serious, because Hudland has been pretty darn good for us so far in the knockouts of the Champions League this season. Let's hope it's nothing too serious, especially seeing as we're taken off quite early off the back of that injury going to orange. Hopefully that won't be too long term. We hold on here to this 1-0 deficit in the second league for everyone up here in terms of the aggregate score. So at the moment, Arsenal are thankfully not making the most here of their statistical dominance, because they've definitely been the better team throughout the majority of the second league, and also for a little bit too of that first. We take our time here from the free kick, but that's shocking from Renan. Arsenal might get a chance here, work their way back into this tie, but thankfully Saka with a weak-ass finish. He's got the Botley gene. That does stay only 1-0, so thankfully we're playing pretty poorly, but just doing enough here to hold on. So with 10 minutes left, we'll start the time waste and be a bit more disciplined. I think this time, as we hit the mark with 5 minutes to go, we will go to fullbacks instead of wingbacks like we usually do, seeing as we'll be late on in this time. So far, Arsenal have been all over us, as now Robert Renan picks up a yellow card. So this could be a bit of a problem. We'll have a few players sitting on yellows going into the semis, provided that we do hold on here, we'll lower the tempo, and as I said before, we have put those wingbacks onto fullbacks like we usually do. Let's hope that Arsenal don't make their way back into this game. But now a set piece here, which we try and flick on there through Miguel. He can't quite get the job done, but do actually keep hold of this ball ahead there from Fortea, but it just loops forward. So this might be a chance here for Arsenal on the counter-attack. Miguel does win that one in the air, but unfortunately gives it to Arsenal, who now do start to make their way inside our half. So it's about to make our way into injury time in this game. A bit concerned, but Diarra there comes up with a big interception. Now Portugal will start to make his way forward here, but just a bit too dribbly, loses the ball, but then Ronaldo wins it back. So thankfully get the ball back here inside of the final third of Arsenal. Fortea and Matt Soso, a nice 1-2 between those guys. Squeeze it there for Portugal, who puts it away. It's a filthy FMing, but that will put this tie to bed and make it 4-1 aggregate and 1-1 on the day. So despite the fact we've been completely outplayed here by Arsenal in the second leg, we might not actually lose to them here and actually pick up a draw, which is going to be more than good enough off the back of that 3-0 when we picked up in the first leg. Should be making our way through the Champions League semi-finals for a second year in a row. Hopefully can go one step further and make the final yet again, but that on the whole is a pretty comfy looking win. But Arsenal were all over us there in that second league. To be fair, stats-wise, wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was. We came back there quite nicely late on in that second league, but really, the damage got done the last 15 minutes there of that first league. The goalkeeper and Escalainen has hit an absolute shocker. Those two giveaways, a big difference maker. Otherwise, Arsenal might have been able to take that one into extra time and even kick on and beat us without those couple of giveaways from that first league, but they are the big difference maker. Felt a bit lucky there with that 1-1 draw at the Emirates, but on the whole, that's a pretty comfy win. We go through the semis of the Champions League off the back of a 4-1. We'll just go forward and see who will take on in our semi-final. A day off the back of this, it's the other side of the draw, so we can find out our potential opponent in the final. But Bayer Leverkusen have won both legs over Barcelona 1-0, so we'll come back tomorrow. A bit of a refresh from our time in Germany. We'll take on Niko Kovac and Bayer Leverkusen, of course, the team that knocked us out in the quarterfinals of the Club World Cup at the start of the season. There's going to be a big showdown in the Champions League semis off the back of getting past Arsenal. So there's a couple of late goals in the first leg, crucial for us there in that Champions League quarterfinal, getting past Arsenal 4-1. As I said, a little bit lucky in that second leg, albeit the XG doesn't actually look that bad now, but certainly highlight-wise, did get a bit lucky, it felt like there at the Emirates. But the first leg, it was the difference maker. We go through 4-1 to the semi-finals of the Champions League. The other side of the draw, Man City have got past Chelsea quite comfortably in the end too, with a 3-1 win in the second leg. They go through 4-1, and PSG just do enough there to knock out Atletico Madrid. So it does mean that the top-seeded teams have made their way through here in the quarterfinals. It's going to be Benfica versus Bayer Leverkusen and Man City versus PSG. So hopefully can get past Bayer Leverkusen, seeing as they only sit in fourth in the Bundesliga behind the likes of Bayern, Leipzig and Dortmund, who to be fair did beat us back in the league phase, albeit that was when we'd already guaranteed qualification for that round of 16, but still, maybe this one won't quite be as easy as I was hoping. Of course, Bayer Leverkusen did win the Bundesliga that last season, before we did leave Jan Regensburg, so maybe this one's going to be a little bit tricky, having just got past Barca, and also their recent form is quite good, albeit they do only win their games narrowly, so hopefully can fresh them in Benfica in that first leg and maybe get away with a bit of a tight second leg like we did in that Arsenal game that you just saw. But that will do it for today's episode. Really good youth intake, and we get past Arsenal in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. If you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow and hopefully make our way into another Champions League final if we can get past Bayer Leverkusen. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.